Ibrahim sat at the edge of the compound, staring at the freshly covered grave. Everyone else had cried their hearts out, yet he felt empty, like his tears had abandoned him. His fists dug into the dirt. His lips quivered, but no sound came out. The boy who once ran into his mother's arms for comfort now sat alone, trembling under the weight of silence. People whispered as they passed, "Poor child, motherless at such a young age." But their pity only made him burn inside. Why did the gods take her? Why didn't they take him instead? Ibrahim wanted to scream, to pound the earth, to demand his mother back, but his body betrayed him. He was trapped in quiet suffering. His father Musa tried to console him. "We must endure, my son. Life does not end with one loss." But Ibrahim's small hands clenched tighter. He did not believe him. That night, when the villagers went home and the compound grew still, the boy lay awake, watching shadows dance on the wall. He imagined his mother's face in them, her soft humming, her warm embrace. The memories broke him in ways no tears could. When sleep finally came, it was restless. He dreamed of chasing her voice in a dark forest, always near but never close enough to touch. At dawn, he woke with a hollow chest, realizing for the first time that he had truly lost her. He thought the worst was over. He thought grief was the deepest wound he would ever know, but fate was only sharpening its claws. What Ibrahim could not see was that this loss was only the opening chapter of a story that would test every promise, every bond, and every drop of love left in his father's household. The compound still smelled of morning when Musa announced his decision. Weeks had passed since the burial, but grief clung to the air like damp smoke. One evening, as the last rays of sunlight bled across the horizon, Musa gathered the elders and spoke the words Ibrahim never expected to hear. "I cannot raise this boy alone," he said firmly, though his eyes betrayed a quiet fear. "A home without a woman's hand is incomplete. I will take another wife." Ibrahim's chest tightened. His fists curled at his side. He wanted to shout, "Another wife? Already? Has mother's body even rested in the soil?" But he kept his silence, too small to challenge his father's authority. Days later, the woman arrived. Her name was Aisha, tall and graceful, her steps confident like someone certain of her place in the world. She greeted the elders, bowed before Musa, then knelt in front of Ibrahim. She studied his face for a moment before speaking softly. "My child," she said, placing her palm on his head, "I know your pain. I know no one can replace your mother, but from today I will be your mother. I swear before these witnesses that I will love and protect you as my own blood." The elders nodded in approval. Musa exhaled in relief. Ibrahim looked at her eyes, searching for truth, for warmth, for even a fragment of the comfort he had lost. For a moment he thought he saw it. For a moment he wanted to believe. That night, as the moonlight spilled into the compound, Ibrahim repeated her words in his heart. "I will protect you as my own blood." He held on to them like a fragile rope. He did not know then that ropes can fray, and oaths can break. For the first time in weeks, the compound felt alive again. Aisha moved with quiet efficiency, sweeping the yard at dawn, lighting the fire for breakfast, and humming songs that made the air less heavy. Her presence softened the edges of Musa's grief. Even Ibrahim, who still kept his distance, noticed how different the night sounded with her lullabies filling the silence. One evening, after a tiring day in the fields, Musa watched his new wife spoon food into Ibrahim's bowl. She smiled at him and said, "Eat well, my son. A strong body keeps a strong spirit." Ibrahim hesitated, then slowly lifted the first bite to his mouth. It tasted different from his mother's cooking, but the warmth behind it reminded him of a family he thought he had lost. In the weeks that followed, Aisha made efforts to bridge the gap. She asked him about his school lessons, patched his torn shirt, and once even scolded a neighbor's boy who tried to mock him. Ibrahim's heart softened. Maybe her oath was true. Maybe fate had given him another chance at a mother's love. At night, when she tucked him in, she whispered, "Do not fear, Ibrahim. You will not be alone again." And though he missed his real mother fiercely, he found comfort in her words. But life in the village was never without whispers. Women at the well gossiped quietly. "She is kind now, yes, but let her have her own children. Then we will see if her words hold." Ibrahim overheard them once, and though he dismissed it with a shake of his head, the seed of doubt was planted. For now, though, he chose to believe. He clung to the hope that her oath would endure. What he did not know was that hope can be the cruelest trick life plays on a child. T. The wail of a newborn pierced the compound before dawn. The midwives rushed out with smiles on their faces, announcing the news. Aisha had given birth to a baby boy. Musa's joy knew no limits. He danced around the yard, thanking the gods, his laughter shaking off years of grief. Ibrahim stood in the corner, his eyes fixed on the room where Aisha lay. He was happy too, but a strange heaviness pulled at his chest. He remembered how his father had once danced the same way when he was born. Now, it was someone else being celebrated. When Aisha emerged, cradling the child, her face glowed with pride. She beckoned Ibrahim closer. "Come, meet your brother." He stepped forward shyly and peered at the tiny bundle. The baby's face was wrinkled, fists clenched tight, yet Ibrahim felt a spark of tenderness. He smiled, whispering, "Welcome." For a while, things seemed normal. Aisha still served Ibrahim food, still asked about his lessons, still tucked him in. But the changes began subtly. She no longer sat with him during meals, her attention always on the crying baby. At night, the lullabies were no longer sung to the household, but softly to the infant in her arms. When Ibrahim came home from school one afternoon, he found his portion of food smaller than before. "Eat quickly," Aisha said, without looking up, bouncing the baby in her arms. He obeyed silently, telling himself it was only because she was tired. But deep inside, he felt the distance growing. The villagers noticed too. "The oath has begun to fade," an old woman whispered near the well. Ibrahim pretended not to hear, but the words clung to him like shadows. The baby cried louder each night, and with each cry, Ibrahim felt his place in the family slipping away. The compound no longer revolved around Ibrahim. Every sound, every chore, every meal seemed to bend toward the new baby. If the child sneezed, Aisha leapt. If he cried, she abandoned all else. Ibrahim learned quickly that his own needs now came second. One evening after returning from school, Ibrahim sat quietly by the fire waiting for food. He watched as Aisha poured fresh stew into a calabash for her baby before turning to Musa. "Eat, husband," she said with a smile, handing him the choicest portion of meat. When it was Ibrahim's turn, his bowl was filled last. The soup was thin, and the meat was missing. He looked at it, then at her, but her eyes were already elsewhere, fixed on the baby in her lap. "Thank you, Mama," he whispered, though the words tasted bitter on his tongue. Later that night, Musa noticed his son picking at the food. "Ibrahim, eat. You are growing." "I'm not hungry," Ibrahim murmured, though his stomach ached. He wanted to speak, to say, "She gives me nothing," but the fear of angering his father kept him silent. The whispers in the village grew louder. "The oath is fading," they said at the marketplace. "She promised to treat him like her own, but promises are easy when no children of your own are involved." Ibrahim pretended not to hear, but his ears burned with shame. Still, he clung to hope. Maybe she was just tired. Maybe things would change once the baby grew stronger. But one evening, when he tried to sit beside her, she gently pushed him aside. "Careful, don't wake your brother." It was the first time she called the baby her brother, in a way that made Ibrahim feel like he was no longer her son. And that was when he realized her oath had begun to break. Another season passed, and Aisha gave birth again, this time to a girl. The compound filled with celebration once more. Women ululated into the night, children danced around the fire, and Musa's laughter echoed across the village. Ibrahim joined the festivities with a forced smile. Deep down, the joy felt like a knife twisting inside him. The more the family grew, the smaller his place became. At mealtime, he noticed it first. The portion shrank again. The meat always found its way to the bowls of the younger ones. Sometimes, when food ran short, his portion disappeared entirely. One evening, as the family sat to eat, Musa glanced at the children's plates. He frowned when he saw Ibrahim's bowl nearly empty. "Why is his portion so small?" he asked. Aisha smiled quickly, her tone light. "He's older, Musa. He eats outside sometimes with his friends. The little ones need more care." Musa grunted, half convinced, and let the matter go. Ibrahim lowered his eyes to his plate. He had no friends to feed him. The excuse stung more than the hunger. At night, as Aisha rocked her newborn daughter and hushed her son, Ibrahim sat outside, staring at the stars. He remembered her oath, the warmth in her voice when she swore to protect him. The memory now felt like a cruel trick. The whispers in the village grew sharper. That boy has become a stranger in his own father's house. Ibrahim overheard them at the stream. Shame burned his cheeks, but he carried the weight in silence.